On Saturday, there was a convention in Geneva where the situation in Syria was discussed. Now, the Syrian government did attend, and they said all issues were negotiable. Syria welcomes the final statement issued at the end of the conference, especially the substantial points that talked about the commitment to the sovereignty, independence, safety, and unity of the Syrian territories. Among the things discussed was establishing a transitional government of national unity with current and opposition members making up the government, and drafting a new constitution and elections. This has been a very positive sign. Now, the head of the suspended UN supervision mission in Syria said it was actually the best of all possible outcomes. Those who were actively engaged in deciding who was committing the massacres said that this was the best possible situation. Now, unfortunately, the Syrian opposition groups, the terrorists, didn't really like it, and they rejected the terms. Burham Ghaliun, the ex-leader of the Turkey-based opposition group Syrian National Council, totally rejects any form of dialogue with the government. And they do that because they're insisting that there be military intervention. Now, Assad is very likely to accept these terms, a coalition government made up of opposition people and his own people, as he himself is not even barred from actually participating in any elections or anything like that. Now, he can still run for office, but if he were to reject this and the military intervention takes place, he will most likely be killed. They will be saying that they're going to capture him and put him on trial, but he'll just be killed. So it's in his best interest at this point to accept that kind of a compromise. Now, the whole plot here by the U.S. and NATO is to have the terrorists, the Free Syrian Army, as they like to be called, which they are backed up by the U.S., funded and controlled by the U.S. and NATO, to demand military intervention so that the NATO powers can turn around and say, well, military intervention is needed. The people of Syria are demanding it. It's a fraudulent claim. It's a trick by them to justify their own military invasion of the country. Now, there's some more stuff that has come out. There's a big question about how Swiss hand grenades are ending up in the hands of rebels. There was a report, and it's looking very much like that these Swiss hand grenades are ending up in the hands of the rebel, that somebody in Switzerland is selling it to them. And there's a report based on that, and there's kind of a bit of an uproar about that. There is a link to that report in the description. Also, Walid Jumblat, the chairperson of Lebanon's Progressive Socialist Party, I like to use those words loosely, progressive, is pushing Israeli weapons to the Syrian rebels. Weapons delivered by the Israeli Rafale Industries, the so-called progressive socialists in Lebanon, are sending Israeli weapons to the rebels. I think this is a huge indication of what's actually going on there and whose interests are actually being carried out. Now, what is also not being reported is the hundreds of confessions by insurgents who admit that they were murdering civilians and then filming it and blaming it on the Assad government. Now, this also, along with these other 2 points, have also been kept out of the mainstream media that we're not supposed to see. You know, part of the whole context of the situation that we're not being exposed to and that we are not supposed to know about. I think this, among the whole fact that the rebels are actually supported by the U.S. and NATO, the outright puppets of them, shows that this whole Syrian uprising is not one of the Arab Spring, but one of U.S. invention, exactly like what happened in Libya.